This is my opinion on losing weight and fat loss in general. The two things that are going to have the greatest effect on energy output or on fat loss are going to be energy output and dietary changes. Energy output is as simple as can be. Get moving. If it's cardio, do biking or anything else that might be low impact, but a stationary or even on a seated bike with tires biking is going to be your best cardio option. For those who want boxing, absolutely great. Go ahead and go learn some strike training before you attempt it, because the difference is if you don't learn to strike properly, you can go lose weight. You can go punch a punching bag for 3 months and lose the weight, but if you're not striking properly, after those 3 months, your shoulders are going to be nice and sore and deteriorated. Versus if you learn to strike for 3 months properly, you'll have a much more powerful strike, probably like no deterioration, and you'll be a lot stronger, and you'll have the weight loss on top of all of that. So learn to strike train if you want to do the boxing option. If you want to do the weightlifting option, stick to compounds. Compounds are going to be more conducive to energy output and fat loss because on a cellular level, you're utilizing a lot more cells. People can talk about upper chest utilization. That doesn't matter when it comes to large weight loss. So using bench press and pec deck as an example, when you use pec deck, you only have the cells in your chest directly trying to work. When you're doing a bench press, there's a great amount of stabilization being put on the triceps, the lats, and the upper body, and the chest. On a cellular level, you're activating a far amount more of cellulature than you are if you do isolation. So cardio, bikes, boxing, learn to strike before you do it, and weightlifting, stick to compounds. So when it comes to dietary changes, the two changes you need to make are going to be obviously reducing sugar intake. So number one out of the way. And just jumping back to number one quick. When it comes to that, what I mean specifically is you're pretty much, for those who want to really reduce sugar intake, pretty much all pops, all sodas, all juices are pretty much off the table. They're all stuffed with sugar. Unless you're watching it, the juice directly be pressed in front of you, it has added sugar in it, 100%. So number two is jumping out of sugar, because that's just a little bit obvious, is going to be fats, actually, fats and oils. So when you have a fat, it's an animal product. When you have an oil, it's a seed. A seed oil generally is a liquid at room temperature, while fat isn't. The reason that is because of what's called saturated and unsaturated. So the saturated animal fat has a full structure. But the unsaturated has a couple things going on, like let's say a double bond, and it gives it a lot more, it makes it a lot more malleable, but also changes the way it acts. What that means though is when you take a non-hydrogenated seed oil, a seed oil of any type, that has, let's say, that double bond, and you throw it on a pan and you heat with it, it's fine. But the second you put high heat to it to a point where it structurally breaks apart, you start creating negative compounds. Now, using cooking oil at a restaurant as an example, what do you think happens when you refry oils that have been broken down once? So let's say they're deep frying with it too, so they're bringing it to a temperature where some of the structural oils some of those lipids will break down no matter what. Even if most of it doesn't, a large amount of it still will. And then let's say they do 6 to 8 massive batches of fries in there. By the 4th or 5th batch, it is just getting worse. The amount of broken down oil components in their compounds is just increasing. Now with the increased heat, you could be causing them to even react with each other to create even worse compounds. Basically, avoid high heated oils at all. If you cook with oil on a pan, that's absolutely fine as long as you're not burning it. Most oils cooked on a pan are not going to go through the process that deep frying will, that I just previously said, unless you're directly burning it, let's say burning olive oil on the pan. So those who cook with oil on a pan specifically, as long as you're not bringing it to high heat or keeping it on heat for far too long, you're not going to be breaking it down to those bad compounds. But when you cook with a butter, it's it's saturated, remember, so it's a stronger structure. It can be brought to a higher heat and it doesn't really want to break apart. It'll just keep doing its thing, keep waving. That little chunk doesn't break off. It's strong. So now we get to seed oils that are saturated. Seed oils are naturally unsaturated. So when you saturate an oil by making an oil shortening, let's say sunflower shortening or canola shortening, or you make a hydrogenated olive oil or any of that, when you hydrogenate it or you make it a shortening, you create a monstrosity, but you also create trans fats within that process. Even if it's a minimal amount, there's trans fats within that process. What that means is that I believe the number one, the two dietary changes for fats and oils specifically you need to make are going to be trying to remove margarine from your diet entirely, anything that says hydrogenated or shortening, changing it with a butter, and utilizing oils properly in cooking, and avoiding all high heated oils. Obviously that's not for everyone, but that's my general recommendation. And if you want my honest opinion, that does include popcorn. Everybody is different with their opinions on things, but I don't believe popcorn to actually be that healthy of an option. Unless you can make popcorn with minimal oil, then that's great. But most of the methods for making popcorn have it soaked in oil and being brought to high heat. And that, I don't believe that's a good thing. Looking at a lot of the literature that exists for popcorn and popcorn bags, there's a lot of weird cancerous compounds that have been found. So I actually don't recommend popcorn. So that's basically it. Energy output increases, get moving, do stuff. Cardio, on a bike. If you weightlift, do compounds. If you want to do boxing, make sure you know how to strike properly. And then reduce sugar intakes and reduce high heated oil intake. And try to minimize hydrogenated oil or oil shortening intake. For those wondering, I do not even use margarine or anything. I use butter for pretty much everything. I don't really bring it to high heat for anything. The highest heat it'll go to is for when I'm pan frying something, and all it does is brown. I don't burn it, so it browns because of the dairy proteins in there. If I do intake an oil at a low temperature or by itself, I have grapeseed oil. So everyone's different. So I just wanted to throw my recommendations out there for the two greatest things that will have the greatest effect on fat loss and all of that good stuff. Everyone's different, will have their own opinions, so don't be afraid to argue with me, because not everybody's right. And I just want to end this with saying there is no such thing as an actual fat loss supplement. The only thing that may exist as a supplemental form of increasing fat metabolism, literally the only thing with any peer-reviewed literature behind it is going to be catechins from green tea extracts. And even those are kind of iffy. I wouldn't recommend taking them religiously. All of the literature is based on increased energy output with these supplemental catechins. Okay, so if you want to try a supplemental route, the only option is going to be a green tea extract, and do not take it religiously. Do not take it as the supplement is aiding anything. It is just buffering. It is just improving the processes of your body to utilize fats and to utilize things. It is not actually doing anything. It's you doing things, and it's helping you do those things, your body do those things more efficiently. That's just my opinion. If you want to argue, I'm down. Thank you, and you have a great day. Thanks. Bye.